Hello and welcome to Super Rugby Round 4 review. I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, and that person scratching his microphone so you can't hear anything else is Ashwin. How are you doing, sir?
Not bad at all. It's actually the zipper on my nice polar fleecy Placemakers blues top.
Oh, dear me. Anyway, so let's finish the rest of the intro. I'm the guy behind DrivingMaul, a website, podcast, Twitter account, and YouTube channel, bringing you the best in rugby predictions and opinion. Don't forget to subscribe on your favourite podcasting app so we drop into your phone every week or even every day at the moment. And also, please leave us a 5-star review. Other stars are available, but why would you want to? If you'd like to watch what happens behind the covers, the show's live on YouTube at 8 p.m. New Zealand time every Monday. And joining me this week is not only the noisy Ashwin, but also Hermann, all the way from Chiang Mai. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine, Paul, and congratulations to both of you. Blues finally came through for you. Finally,
they did. And, as Danny Tanner says in the chat, the first time both.
A long time for a game like that.
Well, yes, we have waited for a long time for that game, but even longer. For the first time, both the Blues and Warriors have won away from home in the same weekend since 2010. Hell is freezing over, boys.
Ooh.
Well, no, apparently Auckland is getting lots and lots of rain because it has a tropical cyclone going through it currently, or just past it.
Yeah, I should have greeted everybody today by going "Hola," which is the name of the cyclone.
And yes, welcome to Bad Jokes Inc., brought to you by. Anyway, we are going to try and keep this one to half an hour, so let's go. First up was the Highlanders versus Stormers on Friday night, and the Highlanders. I predicted the Highlanders by 14, and I wasn't a long way off as the Highlanders won 33-15. But this was a bit of an error-strewn.
That's close.
This was a bit of an error-strewn performance, wasn't it, boys?
It was. I actually thought that, you never felt like the Highlanders were really in trouble. I mean, obviously, it did get close, and the Stormers did have a couple of opportunities, but I suppose in the back of your mind, you just felt like the Highlanders had it under control. As you say, the errors probably kept the Stormers, or the errors through the game kept it level for longer than it possibly should have been.
But also, Stormers had some bad luck with injuries in the first half too. So they were basically have a junior team in the end, and in the second half you could tell because they didn't really have any punching power. They never looked like they scored.
Yeah, we only got 2 tries in the second half, and both of those were to the Highlanders as they pulled away, and we saw that. That it was sort of one-sided with the clean breaks of 21 clean breaks to the Highlanders compared to 9 for the Stormers. But as you say, the Stormers managed to keep in this one, and it was 3 players, a bit like Rule on the wing, who looked good with ball in hand, but defensively he's still a liability. Made 2 tackles, missed 3, and tackles is going to be a theme of this weekend. So just beware, folks.
Tackle's a theme of all our conversations recently.
It is. Whitelock made 24 tackles in a massive shift as well. And yeah, basically the All Blacks, the Landers did a lot of work. They all made double-digit meters and they all made double-digit carries. And as the Highlanders, a bit like the Waratahs, are a team where if their stars click, the rest of the team do enough to support them. And that's pretty much what happened tonight on Friday night, even if Nholo started with a poor start to the game, but finished strongly.
Did you just compare the Highlanders to the Waratahs?
Yeah, I did, yes.
I
suppose I shouldn't laugh.
One player that deserves an extra shout-out from Highlanders, of course, got to be Aaron Smith. He looks like really sharp again. Really sharp again.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. I'm going back to their first game, in fact, against the Blues, I made that comment in terms of I felt that the huge difference in that game was Aaron Smith passing. He's putting the ball's just absolutely in the exact right position for the guys to run into the gap. So not only are they getting it on their chest, with them running close to full speed, but also into the gap as well. Yeah, I think he's on fire at the moment.
Yeah, really.
And you can tell that basically that guys get affected by what happens off the pitch. What happens clearly, when Toiletgate happened, his form dropped off. Now you can see he's got his stuff sorted out, and it was all good for the. It's all been good with him on the pitch now. Ben Gutzell suggests Rob Thompson for an All Blacks bolter. I don't think so.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, like for those that I suppose if you watch the old review shows and the like over the weekend, and they were talking up Rob Thompson as well. To my mind, he's actually been playing that well for a few seasons. He's a nice, good, consistent player that actually makes the right calls, and that's and he sort of like can get those semi-half breaks. But All Blacks bolter, yeah, not sure about that one.
Cool. So moving on then, we followed that performance up with the Rebels versus the Brumbies. I backed the Rebels in this one, but not by this amount. So the Rebels won 33-10, making the Rebels one of only 2 teams that have won all their games so far this season. So anything particularly standing out for you for the Rebels, and are they the real deal?
Have a shot, Hermann.
Hermann? Yep.
I'm a little bit surprised about the Rebels that they seem to have gelled so fast. Of course, we can always go on that they haven't played any Kiwi teams yet, so what will we know? But they look more and more impressive, and a little bit on the same page as the Highlanders with Will Genia. He's really making a difference. He's really making a difference for the Rebels.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, I actually, I did pick the Rebels, and I actually did pick them to not maybe by that score, but comfortably. Yeah, I just sort of think you look at some of those key players that they've got, like Genia, is able to just get them going around the park at the right time, doing the right things at the right time. And that's what's key in all these games, is that making the right call at the right time and knowing what to do and when to do it. And you've got someone like Genia that's actually bringing that experience in, making a huge difference. Obviously, the Rebel Force element is actually, as you say, they've gelled well, they've worked well already. And, I'm going to call it early. They'll finish top of that table as long as injuries don't go and decimate them, which, hey, that's the big question mark for a lot of teams.
It is, and they are. I mean, they are. And Genia, who seems to be comfortable switching between playing fly half and playing scrum half quite a lot, is their big guy. But also Maffey had a big game. 82 meters, 6 defenders beaten, 11 tackles. It was a blinder from the number 8.
Yeah, I was just going to say, in terms of with Genia, I can't. It wasn't my own thought, but then when somebody mentioned what you've just mentioned, Paul, it's the fact that he's actually moving between that scrum half position and first 5, which is rather interesting, but it's really working well for them. And the number 8's actually giving that forward pack impetus. So yeah, it's just got things humming with some good key people.
He has, and to me, the big difference in this game was the yellow cards. The Rebels took advantage when the Brumbies got a yellow card, but the Brumbies couldn't take advantage when the Rebels did. And you got to look at the locks for the Rebels. Also had a good game with 17 and 22 tackles. They put in a shift, and yeah, to me, that was the big difference, was during that yellow card, which was where the game switched, and then they took 3. The Rebels scored three tries during that period. And they used to playing against 14 men because obviously the red card in the first game.
Yeah, they got some practice on that. But I think also about Rebels that worth mentioning is I think at least among the Australian teams, they have by far the most depth in their squad. They have a lot of good replacements. I mean, Genia obviously they can't replace, but apart from that, they have good backup in most positions. Which
True.
Speaks
that
to
is
the Ace prediction that they're going to top the Australian conference.
And next weekend they travel to the Waratahs. I think that's going to be their first test. Is a proper away game. So that'll be interesting next weekend.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and being a totally neutral type in the scenario, it's good to see the Rebels in a town like Melbourne performing really well. You need to have a successful team in a place like Melbourne for rugby union to thrive, and I think it's good for rugby there.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool. And then we move on to the big game of the weekend, which was the Hurricanes versus the Crusaders. And Hermann, can you try and put your microphone close to your mouth? I think you're a bit quiet for some people. That's much better. I had the Hurricanes by 3, but they ended up winning it by 10, 29-19. But this was only really a 23-minute game, and it was all over in the first quarter.
I'll pinch a line from Hermann on the weekend. I think it was. It's like, when we reviewed the game, basically after that first 23 minutes, when the Hurricanes got all the points on the board, it was going to be a big ask for the Crusaders to catch up. And because the reality was that even if the Crusader had been scoring points, the Hurricanes were likely to score points as well. So the game was effectively over within that early stages of that game. Once the Crusaders lost Crotty and Whitelock as well, to my mind, they became pretty much one-dimensional. Again, something from the weekend that we discussed, they became the forward pack and Jack Goodhue. And that was basically it. As long as the Hurricanes could counter the forward pack, which they slowly did, they didn't start off too well, but as the game wore on, they got much better at defending that rolling maul off the line out. And they sort of took control of the game in that area, even though it was a bit scrappy in that second half.
Hermann?
You want me to go?
Yeah, your thoughts.
Yeah, all right. No, I agree with almost everything you say there, Mr. A. And when looking back, when I watched the game, I was a little bit pumped, I admit. But looking back at it, we've seen more dramatic Kiwi derbies than that, at least, because it was just when you thought that the Crusaders were within one score in the second half, right away, Jordy Barrett kicked the penalty and up, and that was never really got right.
The Canes came out fast out of the traps, put in a lot of energy, and got clear. That's running through some of the players that played well. We've already mentioned Goodhue, who took a lot of responsibility when Crotty went off. Matalele for the Crusaders also did well on the wing, and for a guy who had to come on so early off the bench, did really well. 7 carries, 55 meters. But the top players were on the Canes side. Shields, Fafita and Aldi Sevilla all got through a lot of work. Lamb was good for his try, and Lamapi, again, another guy who stepped into first receiver a lot to bash it up from first phase with 11 carries, which was the top for the game.
He looked a menace when he's carrying.
That he did, and it's really interesting how a lot of teams now are switching around who comes in at first receiver. Some teams putting forwards in there so that the fly half is further away from the breakdown. That we've seen Genya switching in and out. We've seen Lamapi stepping into that role. So a lot of different questions being asked of teams defensively nowadays.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it's sort of different words, but basically the same sentiment. It's basically a way to keep the defence guessing, isn't it? Is what's going to happen if you've just got the ball being shoveled out to first 5 after every ruck or more. You're going to start reading that quite easily. But now, sort of like, if you've got a front rower or a second rower, the second 5 coming in, the first 5, you got teams that have got I keep going back to previous games, but when the Chiefs played the Blues, you had Tian Falcon and Damien McKenzie, who interchanging from fullback to first 5. It's starting to varying it, and then the defenses have to read different things and look closely at what's going on.
Or as the Vogue words, presenting a different picture to the defence.
But overall, it's very interesting what you're saying here. Because it seems like the trend in rugby that players need to be more and more versatile and be able to play in more than one one spot. And if you have a team where many players are versatile and are very comfortable with switching spots with other players, you're going to keep the defense guessing a lot.
Yep, and we see that when the Barretts also, and Geordie stepped in to first receiver as well, and switched it around with his brother. So we're seeing it from quite a few teams.
Yeah, look, going forward, I think you'll see the Barretts actually doing it even more once Geordie sort of gets up to speed again. He's obviously been out of rugby for a fair while, so I think once he starts to really get comfortable, that'll become quite a big feature for the Hurricanes.
Absolutely. So yes, that game was all over in the first 23 minutes because the Crusaders came out cold, but the Hurricanes came out with a lot of energy and got those good tries. We then move over to the Reds versus the Bulls. I picked the Reds by 5, and in the end it was Reds 28, Bulls 14. So a bit of an easy one on that. But early doors, this one looks kind of a bit easy for the Bulls, and the Bulls picked up a couple of early scores, and you thought that actually that they would be that they were actually going to travel much better than they have done historically.
You look, as you said, this is like early doors. It looked like the Bulls were going to basically really sort of take that game by the scruff of the neck. That's still a very young Reds side, and so you sort of think they'll own it, be able to control that game. But the Reds just kept fighting in there, and to tell you the truth, I don't know what happened to the Bulls. I can't explain it because really they got owned after about the 20th minute sort of thing on, maybe a bit earlier. They really did. The Reds sort of had the game from the scrums. The Reds were stronger in the scrums. We wouldn't really say that from a Bulls pack, you'd sort of think. But yeah, I didn't. A game that I don't quite understand what happened.
For being a rebuilding side, as you have to be as honest and say the Reds are actually rebuilding this season, trying to set a new culture, a new spine. I mean, the key things looking really good already. You know, because they had this shocker in the first game with the red card and an extra yellow card, but since then they look like they're playing for the manager, the players. They look like they're doing the hard yards for Brad Thorne. They do. I mean, he's been questioned a lot for his dropping of Quade Cooper, and also he gets some stick for Carl Michael Hunt. So that's not really Brad Thorne's fault, but you know, we go to the territory.
Yeah, and this one, I think the Bulls just got totally on the wrong side of the ref and didn't read it right at all. The penalty starts with 5 to the Reds, 15 to the Bulls. When you're giving up that many more penalties, not only are you handing the ball over, but you're also obviously giving up lots and lots of territory. Both sides turn the ball over quite a bit, 16 and 14, but the Reds managed to get 15 clean breaks to the 10. So they managed to just do more with the ball when they got it. And and as we said, the Bulls unfortunately just got on the wrong side of the ref.
Yep.
No, I want to ask you guys a little bit off the topic, but what do you reckon about the uniform Bulls used in this game?
The Brazilian outfit.
Did you recognize it?
Okay.
They play with Brazilian national teams.
Right. So I like the policy behind. So I like the thought behind the kit, because this kit is actually the same kit as the local football team in Pretoria, where they're from, I think it is.
Yep,
so
Pretoria.
It's in homage of the football team. I don't know what there's something special about the football team this season. It's not my topic, but so that's what they've done. They've gone and had their away kit is the football team's kit from their town. So I like the idea, but I think it looks horrible. Personally.
What Paul's saying, he doesn't like the Brazilian football team colours.
It felt kind of weird to see like the most iconic football uniform in the world, and when you see Bulls rugby team using that, you're like, really?
It's not the Brazilian team. It's their hometown team. So I'm
pretty sure their hometown team have borrowed it from Brazil.
Probably, but I do like the kind of the kind of paying homage and working and the whole community stuff. But yeah, no, it looks awful.
I mean, you know, it's the interesting thing. We see it when the Chiefs sort of started to get successful in terms of they brought in a lot of them because of the region they're from as well, the Maori culture sort of thing in there. So, and that can help towards building that team bonding sort of thing. So, and have a focus for the team in terms of cultural sort of identity. And so if it works, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So a couple of players I just wanted to call out though. Pollard, 12 tackles. I think he needs a bit more protection than that from his back row. You don't want I mean, he has a history of injury already, so you don't really want him getting into that too much. And I think you need to target the Reds wingers. One of them made 3 tackles but missed 2, and Nabuli made 1 tackle and missed 3. So if I was to attack the Reds in any area, it would be down their wings, because clearly those 2 guys are not the best defensively.
Yeah, look, I mean, good point on the Pollard side. I mean, he looks like he could fit into the forward pack, but the reality is, although we might sort of cliche take pot shots at first fives for having a cleaner kit than when they went on the field, the reality is you don't want your playmaker to be fatigued from defending all the time. You want your playmaker to have a clear head to be able to make the right choices for where the team's being driven on the field. So for him to be making... Yep.
I'm sorry. I compared to the week before when they played the Lions and Pollard played number 12. I thought it was, I think his style of game and his body type and everything, I think he looks better suited to play 12 as like a Farrell-esque position. Because he pretty much have it all, but Farrell has also. Maybe like even a little bit bigger boy and a little bit stronger even than Farrell. Better defender.
Oh, well, I think we found out in France with this weekend that maybe Farrell shouldn't be playing at 12 and should be playing at 10. But anyway, that's a slight divergence.
Sure you want to go there, Paul?
No, I don't. So I want to keep well clear of that one, to be honest with you tonight. But hey, there we go.
I'm sure Aidan is ready.
I might be ready in 6 months to talk about that game. But so moving on, second game of in actually, sorry, I was not sure. Moving over to South Africa. The Sharks beat the Sunwolves 50-22. Really, it was all just too easy. I'm not really sure that. The Sunwolves didn't score a try until the second half, and they're already 24-3 down. And I'm not really sure there's much we can actually learn from this game, is there?
Well, you go, Hermann.
Okay. But I watched this game, and what's a little bit frustrating for Sunwolves is they are pretty even in the many areas of the contest of the field. But when it comes to the really do goal line defending or hit the last pass, that's what's failing them all the time. Because in general play, it was a pretty even game, and I think that comes back to that we're still hurting from only having the other teams have like a 3-month preseason, and they only had 4 weeks and didn't have any warm-up games. So I'm still thinking we're trying to find the feet. And with 21 new players in the squad, it's going to take some time before we find the preferred 15 and 23. But still not good enough. Don't get me wrong; it's not good enough.
No, it's not. And we've yet again we've had a silly error from them allowing a try. So in the first game, they managed to pass the ball and hit the post. In the second game, and that led to a try. Second game, they passed it straight over someone's head into the try zone, and then gave another try. And this week, the ball shot out the back of a scrum, I think it was, and the scrum half couldn't touch the ball down quickly enough, and someone else touched it, and he gave it a try. They're giving up a silly try every game, and that goes back to your point that they're just not. They just haven't had a good enough preseason. The Sunwolves now are the only team not to have won a game, and clearly they have the lowest points difference on 55 points after 3 games. But at least they do have a losing bonus point, so that means every team in the competition has got a point at least. But they're the last team that doesn't have a win.
At least they've got a point. It's about participation. We can give them a participation certificate.
Yeah, and one of the points you say, I mean, so the territory was 44%, 56%. So the Sunwolves had the most territory. Possession, 37%, 63%. Again, they had the territory, they had the possession.
Yeah, they're in the games. They're in the games, which is making frustrating to watch, because if you with some like magic touch can erase some of those errors, they will be really competitive. But as you said there before, Paul, if you're giving away like really stupid balls to make the opponent score easy tries, I mean, you're never gonna win. You're never ever gonna win. Yeah,
actually, there's one player I want to pull out. This one was Mawur, the Sharks hooker. He had a fantastic game. passed the ball 5 times, did 5 runs for 65 meters, which for a hooker is amazing. Three clean breaks and 8 defenders beaten. I mean, wow, he had a great he had a great game there for the Sharks. Ex-Lions player, I believe, but we'll see how he goes for the rest of the season. And then, come on, Ashwin, the game of the weekend, surely the Lions. Lions versus the Blues.
I'll let you guys talk through it, okay? This is your moment. You've been waiting for
I just want to sort of like, hack, because I like going back. I just go back to last week Tuesday show. I picked the Blues by 20. Just saying, might not have been 20, but they won by. But I actually picked the Blues by 20 in the.
I actually watched that show. You're right. And Paul was absolutely shocked to hear you say Blues by 20.
Look, it's an interesting game. To me, I watched that game and I didn't actually see a different Blues side from the Highlanders or Chiefs side. They were still basically playing same game. They were loose ball. They gave a couple of tries. They actually gave to the Lions. I was scratching my head a little bit with that first penalty from the scrum, which led to the first try. But you look at Nanai goes around the corner, down the blind or open field. Does that miracle ball out to Sonny Bill, who just flicks a hand into the Lions' arms, and where they go. To me, I don't know if I saw a different game. But what I did see different was when Perifeta came on, and just some of his playmaking and decision-making, taking it to the line, which Brendan Gatlin does very infrequently, maybe once or twice a game. I saw Perifeta consistently take it out to the line. That obviously now starts to bring your defenders, your slide defense in, because you've got to look out for your first 5 running inside as well. So what I saw was actually in the last 20, with some of the subs coming on, a slightly different game happening at that stage. And that was good for the Blues, because that's where they actually went and won the game and scored the tries. I worked out, I think it was in the last 18 minutes, they scored 23 points, I think, something like that.
So, well, they've got to do that all game, and they'll win by 100. But the no, and as you say, this was a lot of people were saying, was really impressed that the Blues kept their heads and all this kind of stuff. Like, really? Because to me, they were playing madcap rugby at the end there to win it. It just, the passes were going to hand and not, and it came off. The charge down. The charge down kick and the Lions knock on trying to score a try, that could easily have been game over at that point.
Absolutely.
This was this was not a cool, calm, collected Blues closing a game out. This was madcap Blues where things stuck, and some players had some did some moments of magic. Kiriwani got that individual try just before half time. That was massively important. If he hadn't scored that one, then I think the Blues' heads would have dropped. But it meant they went into half-time with a bit of confidence.
Yep.
And to me, this was a coming-of-age game for Akiri. At the back of a retreating scrum, he looked after the ball very well, got it out quickly, and handled that. We'll have to see him play a wet game where he doesn't get to play all the running fun bits and has to knuckle down. But still, to me, this was a coming-of-age game for Akiri, in the fact that he controlled it.
That Akira Ioane performance is actually going back about not last year, but the year before, when he first came on, or it actually might have been in that last year with John Kirwan. That going in there and actually pushing off the opposition forwards, not backs, forwards, and we didn't see that last year. I felt from him, especially definitely not consistently anyway. So I have to agree with you. We've seen what he can do. South African forward packs are always big, so he's done it against the big South African forward pack. He needs to now repeat that performance week in, week out. And in terms of your comment on the wet weather condition, I've seen him play in wet weather conditions, and he can be just as effective in wet weather conditions. It's about him and that top 2 inches reproducing that performance.
And that's what I think. That's what I meant in the wet games, is the fact that does he want to do it in the wet games, because where it's all muddy and it's a bit of an arm wrestle. He's happy to do it when he can run on a hard track, but in this one, but also in this one he managed to do it when he was going backwards, which previously he kind of will let his head. He'll drift down against and he'll let his head go, and I didn't see it so much in this one.
Look, the other thing I noticed in terms of the scrums, the blue scrum was actually under pressure, I felt, right through that game, apart from the first penalty of the game. But the thing that I and I think we've talked about this previously, is like, you open up the channel between your locks and the hooker just whacks that ball back and it comes directly back to the halfback. It doesn't stay in the scrum. So if your scrum's under pressure, you've got that opportunity now with the hooker having to strike to do that and get that ball quickly out of the scrums. And I saw the Blues do that, where the ball a couple of times rifled out the back, and the halfback, whether it was Knock or Ruru, was actually running around and quickly gathering the ball up because it had already come out. And it works.
Yeah, it's practically a sevens scrum.
Yes.
But that's what you got to do. You just got to get it out quickly if you're going to go backwards.
Why would you keep it in there if you're under pressure? It's just mental.
So exactly. So a lot of the talk about the Blues being calm and collected, I think, is wrong. It came off tonight, or it came off at this weekend, and we'll see whether it can come off again in coming weeks.
But it's still a good side, Blues. But from my neutral perspective on that game, I thought Lions stopped playing the last 20 minutes. They thought we got this one, and then all of a sudden the Blues starting firing. You could see Lions were a little bit shocked. They couldn't get back into rhythm again. I think. I'm going
to disagree with you. I'm going to disagree with you a little bit in the fact that I actually thought that the Lions played stupid rugby in the last 20 minutes.
That's what I mean. They stopped playing the Lions. I thought they thought they had it in the bag. I mean,
why the Lions were throwing the ball? Why the Lions are throwing the ball around, I have no idea whatsoever. Because if they didn't throw the ball around and they don't lose the ball, the Blues can't win because they haven't got the ball. Especially with 5 minutes to go, when the Blues scored the winning try, the Lions actually had the ball first, and I think it was Malcolm Marks that actually knocks the ball on for the Blues to get the ball. And it's just like, why are you running it? You just need to tuck it up and do your hit-ups.
Yeah.
But hey, I'm not going to complain.
No, and we do talk about Yanchis sometimes kind of not controlling a game the way you'd want him to. I think that possibly also was part of it. I thought he'd matured and got much better game management, but maybe he'll still have the odd off game. Then into the final game of the round, the Jaguares versus the Waratahs. Now I had the Waratahs by 5 in this game going into it, but the Jaguares won it 38-28. And the Jaguares scored in the first 20 seconds.
Yeah, it was a little bit similar to Hurricanes Crusaders. It was almost over within 20, 30 minutes. And Waratahs were never, ever going to come back from that position again. So.
Yeah, I was just going to say exactly the same thing. It was very similar to the Hurricanes Crusaders game. I think, in fact, the Jaguares scored 4 tries. Possible, was it? I think.
They scored 4 tries in how many minutes, Paul?
Yeah.
So
catch up rugby after that.
So yeah, it was 26-0 on the 20-minute mark.
All right, I don't know.
So
even
notes.
So they only scored 12 points in the last hour. And they scored 26 in the first 20 minutes. So this was another one of these games that was done in the first 20 minutes. And if you look at the stats, you can see some good reasons why. The tackling in the first half, the Jaguares were 78%, but the Waratahs was 68% with their tackles in the first half. Come the end of the game, they'd raised that to 77, which shows you they basically didn't miss a tackle in the second half, but they missed an awful lot in the first. And that basically is where the game was lost. So I'm not sure there's much we can talk about the game, but I think there are some players we should really call out of this one. I thought Creevy had a blinder in this and was made some very good decision making at the breakdown.
I just like watching him. That's one of the. If I do end up watching a Jaguares game, Creevy's one of the players that I like watching. I think sometimes he comes off the bench though. Is it? So it's a bit disappointing sometimes, but I like watching Creevy. I just like the way that he carries himself around the. I think it was a couple of games ago. Was it last week when he talked the Hurricanes into taking a scrum when they had a penalty option in front of the sticks?
I'll be your captain. Yes.
Have you noticed when Creevy and Dane Coles play against each other at the same time? It's like obvious bromance between them two. You know?
I had not noticed. I will now keep an eye out for it.
Yeah, no. Look at them. I mean, they give each other long looks, but not hatred looks at all. You know, it's like deep. They're like deeply admiring each other. It's very, very fun.
Deep, longingly looks.
Yeah. No, you can clearly see they like each other a lot.
And this was a good game by Sanchez as well. He ran the game well. I think he can be a bit up and down, but I think this game he ran it well. Hopefully, this is a sign that he's maturing and is becoming a bit more consistent and is the real heir apparent to Hernandez, the magician, who obviously is only coming off the bench nowadays. He's got a bit old.
Yeah.
And Tuchel as well was very incisive from 15.
Look, with Sanchez, with Sanchez, you know, the Jaguares has been in the competition for a couple of years now, and to me, he's been a little bit of a disappointment. As you're saying, he can be up and down. He's a fantastic player, and if he can get consistent with his game, because that's all he's got to do is he's got his game. He's got a game. He's not like a Yankees at the Lions, which I think's a bit hit and he's a bit hit and miss with his execution. Tell you the truth, but Sanchez has got his all-round game. Again, it's the top 2 inches with Sanchez. I mean, it's the top 2 inches with a lot of those Argentinians. But you know, Sanchez, if he doesn't lose his head, he can control that game, and he's a fantastic player. And I think the Jaguares will go a lot better if he can get more consistent with his temperament.
Yeah, talking of temperament, Lavanini picks up 3 penalties again. But at least he didn't pick up a card this time, which is good. So hopefully
no card, damn.
Hopefully he's improving on that one. So yes, that's all the games. I did see Hannigan did play in this game at lock. We saw Fafita at lock for the Canes. So tomorrow night we'll be talking about whether the new lock is a Lucy, and contrary to whether England doing, which is putting a lock in the loose at number 6. So we'll be talking about that during Hash Rugby Chat. We'll also be running through our themed beers for every single for our themed beers for each of the Super Rugby teams, as well as a number of other items. And tomorrow we will also run through our predictions. But Floyd in Pink has once again, he is my favourite person on social media currently. He's put down the cash and he said the panels must watch games this coming weekend. So what are your must-watch games this coming weekend, boys?
Highlanders, Crusaders for sure.
Yep, Highlanders, Crusaders. I mean, second only to the Stormers Blues game, obviously.
Deary me. So clearly, the Highlanders Crusaders is going to be the big game of the weekend. If we run through a couple of the other ones, I think the Reds. The Waratahs versus Rebels is going to be really interesting to see how the Rebels do away from home against a decent team. The Stormers Blues, as you say, have the Blues really turned a corner, or is it just stick on the night and they're going to go back to where they were?
For me, another game that I'm really interested in is the Bulls Chiefs game. The Chiefs have still got a truckload of injuries. The Bulls off the back of that performance against the Reds. So that's going to be quite an interesting game. I mean, Chiefs
you have a little hunch here, eh?
Oh no, not a little hunch, just an interest in it to see what happens. Yeah.
And yes, Ashwin's using the American way of listing games by putting the visiting team first. This is in Hamilton, so this is the Chiefs at home against the Bulls. That'll be, as you say, that'll be interesting to see if they can bounce back from that Reds performance, and then with the Chiefs having so many injuries. We talked about Highlanders Crusaders, Brumbies Sharks. Now the Sharks have been a bit disappointing for me, but can they travel? It's going to be after that big win over the Sunwolves. That's that one is interesting to see if they can travel, because the Brumbies have also been really disappointing. This could be the way that they spark their season.
To tell you the truth, that'll be a game that if I was going to not watch a game this weekend, that sounds like there would be one. The reason being the Brumbies just seem to be playing really boring rugby.
Yeah.
Yes, they have been poor. And the other one you might want to miss is the Lions versus the Sunwolves, because
are they playing? Are they?
So
it's a training run.
So yes, the Lions versus the Lions are having a training run against the Sunwolves. I expect them to win by 30, 40 points.
Yeah, but I also think it's England, Ireland at the same time.
Oh,
it's
In Sunwolves, I mean, they're not going to get many watchers, that's for sure.
are you saying Ireland's having a training run against England?
yes,
Yeah.
at Twickenham. And the only game we haven't mentioned.
Have you seen the world rankings yet?
Yes, I have seen the world rankings. Thank you very much. We'll talk about that tomorrow night,
now.
unfortunately.
Ireland is number 2 now.
Yes,
You have a new team chasing the All Blacks now. It's not England anymore.
Oh, sorry, we're running out of time. The final game for the weekend that's coming up also is the Jaguares versus the Reds. So that one could be interesting. Can the Jaguares back up their win, or can the Reds back up the win? Two sides that could have started with losses but then turned their season around. With the Reds obviously won 2 back-to-back now. The Jaguares with that big win over the Waratahs. So there's a lot of interesting games this weekend. There's only two not to watch, which is Lions versus Sunwolves. And according to Ashwin, Brumbies versus Sharks. That'll be a boring one, but there is intrigue still there as around to can the Sharks turn their season around on the road. Well, thank you all. As I said, got a couple of interesting topics tomorrow night. Yes, we'll talk about whether the big game this year for the All Blacks is against England or Ireland, since they've changed rankings. We'll talk about drinks for different Super Rugby teams, and we'll talk about our Lucy's, the new locks. Hermann, thank you very much for joining me. There's no point me asking you where can people get hold of you, because you are one of these social media ghosts and you don't really exist.
Do we have a postal address?
I have
an email.
So if you want to get in touch with Hermann, do take a trip to Chiang Mai, and I'm sure he'll show you the local nightlife and some good bars up there. If you want to chat rugby with Ashwin, where can people get hold of you, sir?
NZ Fatso on Twitter, and I'll see you there.
And I've been Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul. If you're listening to the podcast, please don't forget to subscribe and give us that 5-star review. Other stars are available, obviously. If you're watching on YouTube, on the recording, my face is there. You can hit that to subscribe, or you can do the red button down below. And my latest video is there as well. So thank you, everybody, and catch you all. Good night tomorrow night. Good night. Oh dear, tomorrow night for House Rugby Chat, and enjoy whatever rugby you're watching.